Hey guys, welcome to a new video and a new patch. We're going to be on 7.20 now, and preseason is literally like less than a month away now. As if our climb for the end of the season wasn't going to be hard enough, we've got a new Evelyn rework to mess with us, or abuse I guess. Actually, list of changes below, but let's get into it. The first thing to look at are hotfix nerfs that a lot of people missed to Janna, which happened about a week ago actually. So her base move speed, health, mana wall down, her passive damage was lowered a ton early, her W mana cost was increased, and her E shield amount was actually lowered by 10 to 30. She's finally actually not completely overpowered anymore. Still probably the best, but like Sona, Soraka, Tarik actually all can give her a good run for her money, abusing Sensor now at least. If you've been playing last week and you've kind of thought to yourself, she doesn't seem as stupidly strong as before, you're probably right. She actually wasn't. Now anyway, the biggest shakeup is to STERAKS this patch, which is getting a rework. So it's going to be 600 gold more expensive now. It's actually a 3,200 gold item, a proper big item level, but it gives a lot more. It's 50 more health on top of what it had before. The base AD has been increased to 50%, but this has been moved from the lifeline active just to the normal item, so you always have that. It can only be bought though by melee champions now, and if you're thinking about Jace for example, you can only get the bonus AD in hammer form, so it doesn't apply for ranged at all. The shield you get from lifeline is still going to be there if you get taken low. It waits for almost a second now before decaying, so it's actually a bit better, and it also gives 30% tenacity when lifeline triggers. So the big things really are AD carries cannot abuse this anymore, by it doesn't actually work, which is one of the reasons by the way that STERAKS got nerfed in the first place, because AD carry started using it. This is a bruiser item now through and through. The base AD up to 50% is actually insanely good for some champions. Some champions abusing Trinity Force really. The base AD increases the sheen damage, which means your burst is going to be way better. Tenacity, by the way, if you don't know, is how resistant you are to crowd control. It reduces the time under any crowd control that gets put onto you, so you can dive in and you just won't get crowd controlled into oblivion. This might be enough to make like Aurelia and Jax pretty overpowered actually, like more damage and crowd control, so you can't really stop them either. I reckon Trinity Force and STERAKS as the first two items seems like a really good item spike now, and Titanic Hydra afterwards would be really good. Titanic is more health for you, so you survive a bit more, but it's more damage, and the more health you have, the more damage you have. STERAKS just got an extra 50, right? So it's actually going to be even better with Titanic if you pair them together. It is also good for champions like Darius and Jarvan and stuff, even junglers like Lee Sin. Base AD is a really good stat to have buffed if you want to kill stuff. So that's the biggest change I think, but we also have some really cool new skins. I don't normally talk about skins honestly, but the Super Galaxy line is actually coming out and these look really good. Annie, Nidalee, Elise, I think Nidalee looks the coolest actually for me personally, but let me know what you think. We've also got Beekeeper Cinch as well. So Evelyn rework, moving on quickly, is the biggest champion change coming this patch and should be the last major update we have before the new season starts. We're going to go over all of her new abilities so you know what to expect when you actually play against her or with her. A friend of mine, Skin Spotlights, has this entire video on her abilities though, so go and check that out as well if you want to see a bit more. So her passive, after not attacking, casting, or taking damage for 4 seconds, she enters this Demon Shade. It's not as cool as it sounds. While below a health threshold, she heals herself, and after level 6, she also has Camouflage. Camouflage is the same stealth that Twitch has, okay? Seen by nearby champions, you are not invisible. Your Q is a straight line damage to the first person it hits. The next 3 spells or attacks though on that target hit also deal bonus magic damage. Eve can also recast his ability after you've used it the first time 3 times extra to fire spikes through her target, just like her old Q. It's basically her Q is her main damage source really. Her W curses the target for 5 seconds and puts her lovely heart above their head. If she hits them, she actually refunds the mana cost, which is cool, and slows them, and if the curse has lasted at least 2.5 seconds, she also charms the target for up to 2 seconds. It's not just charming though. After the 2.5 seconds, versus champions, you take away up to 35% of their magic resist for 4 seconds, which is nuts. Versus monsters, you deal more damage and you charm for a bit longer. This is actually pretty overpowered if you have waited the 2.5 seconds, and it seems like that might be kind of hard, like waiting that long before you hit them. But the biggest thing here, and why it's actually pretty broken, is you can cast this in stealth and it does not remove your stealth. So you can cast it, you can wait 2.5 seconds, then pop out of stealth and get a guaranteed charm. Her E is gonna whip her target. Actually apply on hit effects. It deals a percentage of their maximum health and she gains move speed. Now when you enter Demon Shade, which is your passive, right, so you don't take damage for a while, it actually resets the cooldown and makes it stronger. It's gonna pull Eve to the target now instead and deal damage along the way. It's kind of like a thresh hook-ish, I guess. Pretty sick actually for getting on top of people, and remember, this can really help you trigger your W, so you'd fly to them and charm them. Her ultimate makes her jump up and become untargetable, so kind of like a Fizzy or a Xayah R actually is very similar. It does damage in front of her and then teleports her backwards. This can go over walls, like you can teleport backwards over walls. It's a really good escape mechanic as well as as doing some damage, and it honestly looks a lot like Zaya's ultimate. So her early game is more balanced because she isn't stealth yet, right? She can't actually get it until level 6. She also has better farming, so she's not as all or nothing. Like, you don't have to perma gank or be useless. You actually have a much more complicated and a kind of correct way to use her abilities, so there will be a difference between a good and a bad Evelynn player. So let's look at what the roles are going to look like next patch with some of these new changes. Mid lane is first up. There is one change to Brand. His passive is getting a new element where you gain some mana back when you kill a target affected by your passive by the blaze. Now, if you actually kill something like with your W, for example, and it's not already on fire with your passive, you don't get any mana back at all. It's actually really good for mid lane Brand, and I don't think he's as weak as you probably think he is. Like, he is a mobile, so he can get punished and like kind of shut down, but his damage is really high. The only issue with this kind of change is that when you get your W to a point where you can one-shot the wave, this change is useless. It gives you nothing. Early, if you W and then you auto attack to last hit, it's actually really good though. So will we see a meta change in the mid lane? Probably not, no. If Eve is really good though, like if the rework is just crazy, we might see people lean towards more mobile champions again to stay a lot safer because they're going to get ganked more. The stuff that I would think will be overpowered, Azir, Twisted Fate, I think are clearly too strong. Orianna and Zed follow those and are really good for solo queue at least. A bit more under the radar, we have stuff like Veigar, Echo, Vlad, Malzahar, Ziggs. All of these are really good at the moment. So for the jungle, we have one change to Graves. Base health regen is up a bit more, and the Q has a bit more bonus AD on the first shot. Obviously, they announced Victorious Graves skin as the end of the season reward. Then they buff Graves next patch, the lovely Riot way of doing things. It's not massive though, so we're going to have to see some more changes probably, but Season 8 Keystones might actually help him out a bit more anyway. At the moment, the biggest problem seems to be that he can't kill these tanks at all, and Ezreal is just a better version, like what he used to be able to do, so why would you pick Graves when you can pick Ez? I don't think we're going to get a meta change for the jungle. The overpowered stuff is going to stay like Sejuani, an early game ganking tank jungler. Rammus is kind of like a gank mid game tank versus AD especially. Cho'Gath, we have a late game overpowered tank. The scaling on this guy is insane, and then for damage picks we have like Kayn, Jarvan, and Ezreal. You might be able to abuse picks like Ivan though with Sensor. Shyvana's a tank shredder, so really good. Xin Zhao is actually really good like damage wise still, and Kha'Zix is a really good carry pick. For top lane, I think we have some good Ornn buffs though. So your W damage is now percentage max health, not current, which is really strong when you're actually continuously fighting somebody. His E has a bit more range, and his ultimate has no cast time on reactivating his ultimate now. So it's not massive like the E and the ultimate change, but his W is a lot more damage. When you're fighting somebody, this is going to do a lot more. So this actually could be the kind of turning point, I guess, to where Ornn is just not really useless in the lane phase. If any role will change though this patch, it will probably be top lane, because I have this sneaky feeling that STERAKS is actually really strong now. For the overpowered stuff, we have Riven and Fiora. Obviously like full damage picks, really strong at the moment. Fiora might actually pop off even more with Trinity Force build, like Trinity Force, Lifesteal, and then STERAKS. Singed is insane as an early game champion. Cho and Maokai are the best tanks tops by far, and also Yasuo can be really good. Same with like Darius, Gnar, and Jace. It depends on the player. For stuff that might be strong, we have Nasus and Gangplank, who could actually abuse the Trinity STERAKS like build as the first two items. They can get those two first, and they're pretty good anyway. Talon could be really good for a roaming style of champion. Like, he's pretty strong anyway in the mid lane, and you can play him top and just roam around with Moby boots. Finally, then for the bot lane, we have a few changes. Karma is the first one. Her passive refund on mantra for hitting enemy champions has been increased. So basically, she'll have her mantra a bit more. Especially with auto attacks, this is going to be really good for her, I think, and she might be a bit better. But the problem at the moment, actually, and why she's not really strong, even though she can abuse Sensor, is because she's more of an aggressive champion. You want to pick her to bully with like a Caitlyn, for example, not really sit back like a Janna. Tahm, though, is a bit more of an aggressive champion, and his passive damage is going to be increased this patch. His W can spit out devoured targets earlier if he wants to, so he could save people a bit better or eat them a bit better, and also his ultimate can devour straight after using it instead of being locked out for a second. These changes are not massive, but Tahm is actually a really strong tank, and he has a lot more damage than you think. It might be one of these things where I'm putting him in the support category, but we might actually see him kind of top lane as a, I guess, a tank counter, but just also a bruiser counter. It sounds really weird, but trust me, like a tank Tahm does a ton of damage. And finally, we have support item changes. Ancient Coin is less mana back now, and Spell Thieves has an extra 5 AP to start the game with, only on the first Spell Thieves edge though. We might actually see a meta change a little bit because Coin and Janna are weaker. There's more chance to play aggressive stuff, but Sensor is just so strong. Sensor and anybody who can use it properly are going to be overpowered still. The usual Janna, Sona, Soraka, Taric, and Lulu are the main 5. I think if any aggressive support is going to come back, it would be like Blitzcrank and Braum, actually maybe, but Sensor is just kind of too good, honestly. I don't even know if you can play them unless you stop really really hard. So for AD carry, we might have more fighting in the lane phase, so early picks might get a little bit better, but we still have our kind of like Twitch, Vayne, Draven, and Tristana. Twitch and Vayne are just insane late game. That's kind of why you pick them. The Vayne actually might be the best AD carry at the moment because of a new ultimate change. Draven, if you get fed early, is so overpowered, and Tristana is just way too safe and strong mid game. We might see a bit more of Rage Bay Varus with Sensor. It's actually really, really good. Has a really good early game. Jinx is high damage, crit champion, easy to play as well. And Xayah is strong early and late game, just kind of harder to hit like her highest damage output. So you need a bit more skill. So I hope you enjoyed watching the video and you found it useful. You learned something about the new patch 720. If you did, leave a like and stick around. But for now, let's go to the robots.